You're listening to the Blockaday podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Blockaday podcast. At the Blockaday podcast, we like to take blockchain topics and talk with industry professionals and break down those topics into easily digestible information that anybody can listen to, follow along with, understand, and enjoy. And we hope to give you some interesting perspectives on use cases of blockchain technology outside of the traditional crypto and NFT things that you might be hearing. So today I'm thrilled to be joined by Dr. Rhea Mehta, a PhD in molecular toxicology from the University of Toronto and a co-founder of Bowhead Health, which is a blockchain healthcare company. And I'm also joined by Dante Sanchez, MBA from the Center for Higher and Technical Education University in Mexico. And Dante has over 12 years experience working on mobile games, and he leads the Bowhead Games division. So thank you, both of you, for joining me here today. Really excited to dive into some blockchain healthcare topics and talk about some of the things that you guys are working on today. So before we launch into it, maybe I'd like to hear a little bit about your backgrounds and how you guys got into the blockchain healthcare space in the first place. So why don't you start us off, Dante?
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, well, first of all, thank you so much for the space. And as you mentioned, I started in video games, specifically on mobile video games back in the day where we were just playing in flip phones, like this is StarTags and Motorola's and Sony Ericsson's. And back then we have like super simple games, and we was started like producing, creating games in different companies. And my journey started from there and took me to the whole evolution of smartphones. So we started working with those simple games. Then the smartphones came in, the iPhone came in, the multi-touch, the different features that now we see as a super normal stuff in the cell phone, right? Like we expect our cell phones to do everything, and that's the normal now. But through the whole journey in video games, we like faced the whole evolution, and we were like super wow through the whole journey. And right now I'm still wowing myself with the blockchain opportunities. And it was like last year when we started working like my full-time invest on Bowhead, where we started this relationship, and we started the video game studios where we were talking about how we can bring video games to the whole like health ecosystem that Bowhead has been building. And that's today where we are actually building video games inside the blockchain to actually bring the whole value of the health ecosystem that we have, the blockchain technologies. And I think that I'm still fascinated with the whole like innovations that we have in hand. And I'm pretty sure that we haven't explored everything, and I'm pretty sure that I will be amazed like tomorrow with another new technology that is coming, because that's the fastest thing in the world right now, I think, technology.
Yeah, definitely. The space is moving so quickly, and there's so many cool things to discover, new use cases. And Dr. Rhea, how about you? What brought you to the blockchain healthcare space?
Yeah, so we started Bowhead in around 2015, 2016 when I officially joined and came together with my two other co-founders. And we originally started to, we came together because of my business partner Francisco's software background. So we knew that technology was going to play a role, and his father and myself, we have the scientific background, the medical background. And so we were thinking we would put together like a personalized medicine play. And we started out building a robotics device that dispensed personalized nutrients based on your biometrics. So that was sort of something that we all felt very strongly about bringing into this world. But when we started to do our research, we realized that like the world doesn't need another solution to health and healing. Right now, there are some bigger problems in healthcare, and one of the core problems in healthcare is actually the management of data and the portability and the movement of data, and of course the fact that people aren't owners of their own data. And so when that happened, we of course started to like put our thinking caps on and just start thinking about like what are the technologies out there that actually allow us to address this major fundamental problem within the healthcare industry. And blockchain popped up, and at the time, this is when there were very few healthcare blockchain projects. So there were maybe I could probably count on my one hand how many projects there were, and so that we were taking a big risk, of course, moving into this space. But ICOs also weren't that popular at that time, and so we were able to put together a white paper, bring a lot of people on board to blockchain researchers, like people who were very passionate about the intersection of health and blockchain, and just come and help us co-create this white paper and bring our vision to life. And then we tested it out by launching an ICO fundraising campaign to see actually does the world buy into this. And we were successful. We were able to raise whatever we set out to raise, and convince our community. And now we have this giant community of token funders that this project made sense. And so once we were able to validate that, we just sort of set out on our journey. And I think for us, like I have my brother-in-law is the inventor of the first Bitcoin paper wallet, so I already had a personal family investment into this space. And so naturally we were having like dinner, we would be talking about, crypto. And so I was already familiar with the technology that underlying cryptocurrency, and my business partners as well were already kind of familiar. They were, they're my business partners in software. So he was just, a nerd and reading all the things that were happening in the space. And it was pretty hot back then. Like, of course, everyone was sort of in that space, was talking about the cryptocurrency and the technology. And so, that was sort of, we didn't need that much convincing internally because we were already pretty convinced of the value. It was just more, how does this sync up with healthcare? And once we were able to validate that by, sharing our vision with the greater community, we were like, okay, let's go, let's make this happen.
Amazing. That's fascinating. Thanks for sharing that. So let's dive in a little deeper into what you guys are working on right now. So you have this company, this Bowhead Health, and you have this game that you've created, this health to earn game called iSea Monsters, right? So what the heck is health to earn, and what is like the vision and mission behind this iSea Monsters game?
Sure.
So,
want me to take that, or
yeah, why don't you? I think it's. I was going to jump in and maybe share a little bit more about our Bowhead mission, but I think it makes more sense for you to share the iSea Monsters vision, because it's all one and the same anyway, and I'll fill in where I need to.
Yeah, well, basically that question, it's a pretty good one. What the hell is health to earn, right? Because that's something that when we started the project, the whole community was asking that question, like, oh, so we have a new concept now in the space. And it's basically now that the vision that Rhea shared with us, like we are just adapting that same vision, but in video games. Because if you think about the whole movement of Bowhead, we're trying to give you as a user the ownership of your assets, and data is one asset. And come on, it's one big of an asset, right? Like everything moves and around data. And right now, what we're building is that this video game and this DApp, if you could, now that you call your blockchain applications DApp, right? So we're building this DApp where you're going to have this application in your mobile, and this application will have the ability to start mining your data, but still it's going to be on your possession, in your personal wallet, in your personal possession, right? You're going to be the owner of everything that is happening inside this application. And basically, we're going to just ask you like, hey, thank you for using our application. And here's this system that we're building, this economic system that we're building to just give more engagement to the application. Because right now, one of the biggest problems in any health application, you name it, is the retention. So what we're trying to build here is not just a gamified experience, just not give you some levels and missions, but to actually build a video game and actually give you a whole experience that you can share with the community. Because we are building a big community, and all the communities moving at the same direction, and we are just building with them. And at this point, the whole vision of the project is to give you the ability to not just take care of yourself, but also have fun while doing it. So taking care of your health, it's going to be fun at finally, right? Because not for all the people it's the same like story when talking about your personal health. And when you have this kind of motivators and this kind of boost for you to go and go outside, take a walk, and just not going back home and have this experience, but also coming home and share the experience with the community and have your progress and have your missions and have your little monster train in the metaverse. Like, oh, I'm making progress, but I can see my monsters also making progress in the metaverse. And that's the whole beauty and vision that we have with this project.
Right. So this health to earn is like you have an application that can kind of track people's movements, right? And then you're rewarding them for being active. And then you've got that gamification through these non-fungible tokens that are the iSea monsters, right? And then you, through engaging with the app and through just physically moving, you're leveling up your little non-fungible token monster. Like that's how it works. Yeah, that's super cool. I think it's a super like innovative, interesting take on like the healthcare exercise activity industry. And I love how it's all also about like this self-sovereign data ownership, like of your healthcare data. I saw that like Bowhead's mission is to like help people own and control their health data. Like that's the big idea, right? So can you talk a bit more about like why that is such an important aspect of your company and your product?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. I think we haven't truly realized as a collective like how all the intelligence that we can extract from our data, but we're starting to realize that. And in the healthcare space, some of these, like there was I'm pretty sure you heard about, 23andMe and that whole, spectacle around the fact that, we're sending our data in, our genomic data, and now it's being sold to big pharma. And like, what do we get out of it? Like, do we get any value from that transaction? So I think, clearly there are some stakeholders in the industry that already know how valuable our data is. But it hasn't, that value hasn't been realized by the individual, especially if you're not in this world at all. And so we're trying to like, if we're talking about, empowering people to be healthy, to live healthier lives, they have so much working against them to be healthy. And part of that empowerment is actually just to have to own your own data, to have your own data in your own wallet, like having that level of responsibility. The hope is that and having that information work for you. So, the future, the hope is that in the future, that data that you're tracking from yourself on a daily basis will actually, share insights with you. Will share insights, personalized insights that are related to your day-to-day behaviors. So, you don't have to think about what you need to eat. Like hopefully your data can tell you how many steps you need to take, what you should eat based on, everything it knows about you. It's all you. So, I think once we start to realize how precious that is, like naturally we're going to want to, be the holders of it, because if we're not, the sad reality is like, somebody else is going to profit from it. And right now what we're seeing, and I think this is also what has, hopefully, and actually I believe has really kind of spearheaded the self-sovereign data and digital identity movement is, the fact that there's so many large scale breaches and small scale and large scale data breaches happening on a daily basis, not just in healthcare, but like across industries. And so, there's breaches happening, there's bad actors, there's like a ton of vulnerabilities that are happening when we have our data, controlled by centralized structures. And so, I'm happy that's happening in a way, because it's just further solidifying the idea that like ultimately we should be the owners. And so, yeah, I mean, I truly believe that our data can work for us. We're showing that right now. And we're also showing that, you can be rewarded for your data. Like there there are some folks who have put like some calculations together to say like based on like what certain types of data, whether it's genomic or other types of healthcare data are valued at, like you could make like, between $10,000 and $20,000 a year just on your own data. And that's probably like, a very low estimate. Right now, especially given that we're probably going to be, there's probably going to be a lot more interesting technologies that we can start sharing our data with, right? So, like we can, it's not enough to earn a living, but it's a substantial amount and it could help a lot of people, especially in developing world.
Yeah, and I'm all on board for that, for controlling our own personal data, whether that's healthcare data, whether that's financial information like cryptocurrencies, all that stuff. I think it's very important. And obviously we see with all of these data breaches and millions and millions of patient, like sensitive patient records getting hacked and stolen and exposed. So like there obviously is a problem, and blockchain is a potential solution to this, but how do you get people to kind of really understand that? Obviously we can look at the numbers and see that like these institutions are not doing a good job like holding our data for us, but at the same time a lot of people are not exactly ready to hold their own data, right? Like it is a lot of responsibility. Like you said, you have to have your data in your own wallet that you are the sole owner of, and if you lose your key to the wallet, then you could potentially lose like access to your healthcare data, which is a pretty big deal. And a lot of people aren't ready for that responsibility. Even like you can look at even like social media, for example. People are fine, it seems to be like just giving away their data for free just for the convenience and for having these big central entities able to custody that for them. So how do you get it through to people that this is the way that we should be going towards this self-sovereign data ownership?
Yeah, I think that's where you guys come in. We need people we need to be educated. Like the collective needs to be educated, and also I think the education needs to not be like the fear mongering, because there's we've played around with like different types of education, and and we were primarily using LinkedIn as a starting point, but we were across social media just sort of sharing bits of content. And for some people, like fear works for them, like telling them that their data is being stolen and exposed, et cetera, like works for them. But for a lot of people, like it actually paralyzes them, and then they're just like, okay, well, like what am I supposed to do? Like I need like tangible next steps. So I think we need to educate people. We need to let people know that there are ways around like being the sole owner of your private key. You can assign family members, people you love and trust, to also hold a version of that key. You can bury your key in the ground like they do in with certain companies, and I know there's one company in Switzerland that does that. So there are ways to work around this, but I think it's the idea of just really educating people on like what does it actually mean to be the owner and controller of your data, and why is it important. And once we're able to figure out like how to get through to people, I think that's the like we're all still trying to figure that out, right? Like and I think we have to get super duper creative. I think like documentaries work really well. Like The Social Dilemma was a big one. It pushed a lot of people to start like I've never had more conversations about privacy and security and in big tech, like as I did after Social Dilemma came out on Netflix. So I think like we know that, visual types of education work really well, especially when they're, on the big screen. So yeah, I think education all the way.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm so glad to have you two on the podcast today, because that's what we really want to do. We want to show people how this stuff can empower them and help them. And I think looking at it through like the healthcare lens is really powerful, because when you look at like crypto, NFTs, like the very traditional, or not traditional, but like the kind of more like mainstream blockchain stuff, people are often like even turned off from it because they don't really understand, like they don't want to get into the financial aspect of it, so they're like, that's not for me, and it's kind of a put off. But if you show them these other applications that this technology can do, like controlling your healthcare data, safeguarding your healthcare data from all of these potential breaches, and giving that power back to the true owner of the data, like it's very important and powerful. And that's why, yeah, I'm just stoked to have you guys here to talk about this stuff. A few weeks ago, we had a Dr. Chang Liu on the podcast from Blockchain at UBC, and he is a healthcare blockchain researcher. And we got kind of deep into the healthcare blockchain industry, and he was telling me it's a very like difficult industry to innovate in. There's obviously it's like heavily regulated industry, slow moving, and a lot of like healthcare startups, especially in the blockchain space, really struggle to like break in. So I'm curious like what your thoughts are on that and how you guys plan to deal with that.
Yeah. So Dr. Chang Lu is amazing, and I I would say like he's right in that it's a healthcare in general is a hard industry to break into, whether it's like blockchain related or not. And that's because it is so heavily regulated. But I also see that as an opportunity. Like if you really want to get into this space, then you have to, you do need to have some level of investment into, the regulatory, like making sure that your application does fulfill the requirements by the different regulatory bodies. In Canada, we have the PETA, in the US, HIPAA, in the Europe, GDPR. So, there are these restrictions and they force you to innovate and the hope is that you're able to keep innovating despite the large investment that it does require for you to, basically be able to build and bring these layers of, compliance into your build. But like I said, it's not impossible. We did it. There are people in the healthcare space, across the world. Like, we have a partner in Canada called MedStack, and MedStack is who we worked with to bring HIPAA compliance to our technology early days. And so, they've like everything that we basically have built is on top of a HIPAA compliant layer. So, it requires a lot more detail, like being very paying a lot of attention to detail and being, of course, having solid quality assurance and making sure that we're checking all the boxes. But in some ways, it creates a tighter product, and it allows for us to also be and play in this world that we all feel so passionate about disrupting. Because healthcare impacts every single one of us on this planet. So yeah, I think it's not super easy to be in this space, but that means that there's fewer players. So there's a lot more opportunity to make something of yourself if you're willing to, if you're lucky enough to, find the funds and the investment and the right partners. And they do exist.
Mm-hmm. And you guys have been around for years now, so clearly you're doing something right. Right.
Yeah, and it is challenging, now that we're at this place where we have with our Bowhead application, we work with big pharma, and to work with big pharma, you have to that sort of pushed us, because we needed to basically have every single thing in place to be able to fulfill and maintain, sustain that kind of a relationship. So now that we we're able to sort of develop those relationships within pharma and bring our application to that place where we can fulfill all the regulatory requirements, we can pretty much work with any other player in the space. But it did require significant investment.
Mm-hmm. It's good to hear that you guys kind of have a path forward, and despite the regulatory hurdles, that you are good at making headway. So let's dive into iSea Monsters, the game itself. I think it's super cool, and I would love to get a little more granular with that. So first things first, can you maybe talk about what the whole process looks like? Like, imagine you're trying to talk to my mom about iSea Monsters, and you're trying to convince my mom health to earn. How do you get her onboarded? How do you explain the integration of NFTs to someone who doesn't really have an understanding of blockchain technology?
Yeah, well, I think I can talk about that one. And basically, that's one of the good points that we have, because you don't even need to understand exactly how the technology works. Because the way we are building it is that you get a cell phone, you can download an application, and you can start playing. Then if you get a level of interest, oh, okay, this is great application, I can go and get a monster for myself. And if I had to explain it to someone that doesn't know anything, I will put it like this way: we are building a world for you to bond with this little monster. So if you look to like take walks, take care of your health, what about you get yourself a partner? And this partner can be your little monster, your icy monster. So, well, you train in the real world. Let's say you take walks, you take care of your nutrition, your hydration, those features that help you to be healthy. Your monster can learn from you, and you can learn from your monster. So this is your little partner that can work out with you, can train with you, and can live the whole journey with you. And the bridge that can connect you with this little monster, it's just helpful. Like, download the application, and you can actually see your monster there, and you can talk with the whole community that is also sharing your vision of what it's held about, and and how it like bridges and overlaps with blockchain technology. So without even mention blockchain, I can tell you, like, if you want to actually have fun, like taking care of your health, just download the application, and once it's ready, and you can start making progress in our metaverse, in our world, in our digital world that we are building. So you can actually bond with a monster, and you can actually have fun while taking care of your health. So if you already go to walks, if you already work out, then you can add this layer of fun to it. And if you want to go to a next level, well, that's something that we are designing. Like, this is kind of a funnel, right? Where you're like in the general public, and the general public have access to a phone. So we are building these applications to reach out the general public so they can start knowing more about the project. So if you like invest yourself more, and you get like this interested to be more involved, like, oh, what about the community? I can join Discord and know the whole community of iSea monsters. And oh wow, you have training sessions for holders. Like, I can do yoga sessions, I can do like meditation sessions, I can do all these training sessions that are the benefits. Like, you can see it like as a digital gym for like our community. And the more that you get involved and interested in the project, the more opportunities you have to learn. And of course, if you just like want to stop at certain point, you don't need to go deeper. And that's on you. But the whole journey, it's being think about how a person can learn more and have more fun. Because at the end of the day, if you're building a game, if you're building something that it's supposed to be fun, it doesn't matter how like economics are built or the technology is built. If it isn't fun, you're not going to use it. So that's why we're actually having a whole team behind the project. Like, we have game designers, we have writers, we have artists making this to look and feel and make the experience fun.
And I would just add that, if we're talking to your mother or Dante, your daughter, like, we're trying to help. Like, we're obviously, the hope is that we're finding people who, are already interested in wanting to be healthy, but who, have some level of struggle and obstacle around it, right? Like, they're not like, they know they want to eat right, they know they want to move, but they're not already doing it. So what we're doing is we're offering them rewards. We're offering them rewards by, allowing their NFT monster to level up. And then we're also offering them rewards through tokens if they're participating in the game. So, this idea of like, incentivization, it's not going to appeal to everyone, but there's definitely a market for it, of course. And specifically in health, like, where, we've seen this model that has worked in, with multiple projects across the industry. But that's what it is, right? It's like, we want to help you. We want to help you like facilitate working out and feeling better. And we're going to reward you for it, really.
Mm-hmm. And I love that philosophy that you mentioned, Dante, about making the game fun, right? I think a lot of blockchain games, they take like the technology first, or the economics first, and then they kind of have the fun aspect like down below that, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you're building a game. I'd imagine it's got to be fun first and foremost. And I also love the holistic kind of health approach you have, where in your Discord, I was checking it out, and you have like, I saw like 20 plus events scheduled, all kinds of different workout routines and stuff like that. So it doesn't just stop on the app, on the game. Like there's a whole community you're building around this thing with this goal of like making people healthy and making it fun, which is just so awesome. There's another app that is called STEPN, and this is another kind of like they call it move to earn, not health to earn, and it's from what I can tell kind of similar. You buy like an NFT pair of shoes, and then if you have the shoes and you go for walks, you get rewarded. It got a bit crazy. Like last month, people were making like $40 for a 20-minute walk, which doesn't sound super sustainable, right? But I'm wondering like how you guys like differentiate yourselves from an app like STEPN, which to me on the surface seems a bit similar to what you're building.
Yeah, actually, it's move to earn. It's and the whole STEPN project are of course like a big inspiration for us. Like we're not like yeah, we're having this layer of innovation, but of course there's some base that we're like getting inspired from, and kudos to the STEPN team because they are building a great application, but we are actually trying to build something that it's more appealing to the community that we have right now. And you can see, for example, that you mentioned, you have the projects that move to earn. There are several of them by now, and they are not like having this part of video games in their ecosystem. And what I mean by that is that yeah, you can buy a sneaker to go for a run, but it's not a character. It doesn't have any like backstory where it come from. You can actually join a project and learn where these monsters come from. There's a series of stories in the Medium post that you can learn about the whole story. And we're building a whole lore around the ecosystem. And we're actually having these little characters as a collection of unique monsters. So you can actually bond with one of these monsters or several of them if you love them, and actually have this virtual relationship with them. Like, hey, my monster is like giving me a hard time because I haven't drink water enough lately, right? Or I need to move more, and my monster is here to remind me that. And you build this kind of a virtual story with your monster, and the whole experience, as you mentioned, our experience doesn't even start with the application. The whole experience starts inside the Discord when you first join the community. Like, oh, what's going on here? You have already like events, games that are not happening even in the blockchain or the metaverse, the so-called metaverse, right? It's happening right there with the community, with real people, and that's the whole like I think the whole beauty or the real value when you build this kind of projects, because we're building the project with them, and we're actually taking some directions with the input from the community. Just like yesterday, we had this contest. We have the community building what would be the next episode in the story of the monsters, and we have a lot of like super value fanfics about what will be a day with your monster, and we're like super. For me, it's amazing to see this kind of a participation from our community, and we're building the actual story direction based on the input from the community. So we're actually changing the direction of the story that our writer already had. So we have like this involvement with the community. And I think that's one of the differentiations that we have between iSea Monsters and all the Move to Earn projects. We can separate it in two layers. Like we're actually building a game that has story, art, and the fun aspect of playing. And also, we're not just stopping on trainings. We have the whole Bowhead background about health, data ownership, and the whole like, even if you are like looking for actual help from professionals, we have that. We have the connections, we have the relationships, and some partnerships that can help you to improve whatever conditions you have, right? Well, not whatever, but the ones that we are actually giving you support. And we hope that will be like a biggest achievement, right? Like help everyone with all the conditions, but we're moving like one step at a time.
Mm-hmm. That's super inspirational, I'd say. I love the story and lore approach too. It just adds a whole other like a whole other layer to this thing. Like, 'cause it's hard to come up with like stories about a pair of shoes, you know. Excuse me. You talk a lot about community. I'd like to dive a bit into community. So I saw you have a Discord with like 7,000 plus members on it. Your social media channels, same kind of numbers. We have multiple events every week. So like I'm curious, how do we're in this like blockchain Web3 space where community is such a big important aspect. At Blockaday, we're trying to like build our own community, having some growing pains in the beginning. So just for people listening and for my own personal interest, like how do you guys go about building and maintaining this community and having it so engaged that they're like creating fan fictions about your NFT monsters? Like how do you get to that stage?
Yeah, well, I think the one thing that you mentioned is this growing pain, and no one has a real answer. In my opinion, no one has a real answer on how to build a community from ground zero, right? You have to just build your vision and find people that share that with you in the way. Because if you go and try to force a relationship, you won't have the result that you want. And even us, we are like, in my opinion, we're still having like this process of growing the community. Yeah, we have engagements because we are trying to learn from the community. And one of our like goals and visions that we have is to actually build a strong community to build a DAO around our projects, so we can actually get the people involved in our project, because that's something that you don't see in the traditional or Web2 the development, where you just have a product, a catalog of products that you pick from. But in Web3, we are actually building with the community. Like, hey guys, what would be an amazing story to add? Oh, the community participate. And what will be like the next feature you love to see in the product, and the community participate. And that kind of approach, I think that's when just like Rhea mentioned, like if you find the people that actually like share the vision with you, that's an internal motivation that it's enough to just keep pushing with you. And of course, you can actually like help the motivations with some externals. So to have like some things going on, because we all need like this kind of help time to time, right? And that's something that we're actually building. Social motivations, external motivations, but the real base is if they share the vision with you, they will stick with you, because we cannot force any kind of relationship, even in real life or your personal relationship. It's if you share something, if you have this shared ground, then you can build together.
Yeah. And I would just add that also, we have a very dedicated community manager for Discord, and it's kind of like a full-time job, because you're constantly testing different ways to, connect and collaborate with your community and get engagement from them. So we're at a place where we're like very happy with, a lot of the experiments that we've been running, but like Dante said, there's still lots of like a long way to go. And it does require like a significant investment and focus.
Yeah, and speaking of which, of the experiments, we're actually launching our own Twitter Space weekly episodes. We started yesterday. We have a pretty good response from the community, and we're actually building this kind of a live podcast format where Twitter Spaces allow you to have. And we have this first episode of iSea Speaks yesterday, and we will have iSea Speaks every Wednesday at 10. It's 9 a.m. Pacific time, and we're actually having different topics for the community to learn about what the process is, because we want to update the community every step we make, and we want feedback, and that's the way I think we can build something that they actually love.
I love it. I think you guys are doing it the right way. The community engagement is such an important piece, right? And then to get that kind of long-term value for your project, you mentioned like DAO, just quickly for anyone who doesn't know, that's like a decentralized autonomous organization. Very simply, it's kind of like a blockchain concept where you give some ownership of your product, your company, even to the community, right? And give them a say in the direction that you're going. Which is like a super exciting thing, because this community is really they're the real people, like driving the project, right? The team is there to build things that the community wants, right? Because they're your customers, they're your followers. Without them, you're nothing, right? So yeah, I love that approach. We're almost out of time here, so I just want to open up to you guys. Is there any kind of like final message you want to share about iSea Monsters, or anything you're working on in the future? Any kind of call to action you have for our listeners?
Yeah, well, the first call to action that I will suggest is just to join the community, uh, get to know the project, and of course, if you like it, go to and get yourself a monster. We are actually have the minting right now live for the whole public, and we are reaching the first milestone for us and the volume. So we're actually trying to push that to reach more people. But of course, it needs to be an actual like natural interested. So I will recommend you guys to first join the community, learn about the people that is involved, how we are building, and what we are offering. And if you love it, and I'm sure you will, just bond with a monster, mint one, and you will love the whole experience.
Yeah, and I would just I'll add that members of our community, and we already chatted about this, but members of our community do get access to quite a lot of perks, beyond the digital world. We are trying to, bring in, like, I would say, diverse and world-class experts, trainers, wisdom keepers, thought leaders from around the world who are, sharing their expertise, and on a weekly basis. And we're going to keep going. We're going to be running, AMAs and Discord. At the next one, we're going to be teaching. We're going to have a thought leader sharing about Ayurveda, which is ancient wisdom, and that comes from South Asia. And it's also very related to, how to take care of ourselves, but there's, different schools of thought, right? So we're trying to bring in also, like, people who, bring expertise from, different parts of the world. Cause I think that's really important, because, one of the values of this space is that, this is open to everyone. We're trying to be inclusive. We have a major presence, a community presence in, Southeast Asia, Far East, in Africa, all over Middle East. So yeah, just come and join and take part in what we have to offer.
Awesome. And I'll be sure to include the links to your website and to your Discord in the description down below, whatever platform people might be listening to this on, so they can come and check you guys out. Sweet. Dr. Rhea and Dante, thank you so much for coming on to our podcast to chat about this. Super interesting. I'm personally going to take a deeper dive into your project, because I think it's like super cool. I think it's the right direction to help in further blockchain adoption in general, through kind of unique health to earn lens. Really exciting. And to anybody who is listening to this, thank you so much. If we provided you value, if you enjoyed the conversation, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And till next time, this has been the Blockaday podcast. I'm Christian. These are my lovely guests, and have a great day. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.